Today's reading from Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Some of you might remember if you were here last week. No problem if you weren't, but if you were, you might remember Mrs. Jennings. She's an American woman that was in the ashram, and she was asking Ramana Maharshi some questions, and she kept pursuing these questions about method and the scientific ways of the East, trying to have a step-by-step way to awaken through meditation. And he kept turning her back and saying, who is asking this question? And trying to get her to look more directly at her own self and her own mind, rather than having a philosophical discussion with him. Well, she came again, of course, because she was staying there for some time. This book was written in the 1930s, I think, so this was quite a journey. So any Westerner that showed up at the ashram usually stayed for some period of time, because it was a long journey by boat and train and bullock cart and everything else to get to the ashram at that time. So she was there for some period of time. And she has some more theories. So he's answering her theories. Mrs. Jennings says, is not affirmation of God more effective than the quest, who am I? Affirmation is positive, whereas the other is negation. Moreover, it indicates separateness. And the Maharshi says, so long as you seek to know how to realize, this advice is given to find yourself. Your seeking the method denotes your separateness. So she is saying that the way he's explaining things promotes separateness, to ask the question, who am I? To use the inquiry. And he looks right back at her and says, your seeking the method denotes your separateness. So already in her thoughts, she's feeling the strength of her own being and doesn't realize it. She's trying to answer the question with the mind. She further asks, is it not better to say, I am the Supreme Being, than to ask, who am I? The Maharshi says, who affirms, there must be one to do it. Find that one. Mrs. Jennings, is not meditation better than investigation? The Maharshi replies, meditation implies mental imagery, whereas investigation is for the reality of the self. The former is objective, whereas the latter is subjective. Mrs. Jennings, there must be a scientific approach to this subject. So she brings this up again, even though they've gone over this in previous meetings. The Maharshi replies, to eschew unreality and to seek the reality, that is scientific. She says, I mean, there must be a gradual elimination, first of the mind, then of the intellect, then of the ego. The Maharshi says, the self alone is real. All the others are unreal. The mind and the intellect do not remain apart from you. The Bible says, be still and know that I am God. Stillness is the sole requisite for the realization of the self as God. Mrs. Jennings, will the West ever understand this teaching? The Maharshi says, there is no question of time and space. Understanding depends on the ripeness of mind. What does it matter if one lives in the East or in the West? Later, Sri Bhagavan said the whole Vedanta is contained in the two biblical statements, I am that I am, and be still and know that I am God. The Maharshi asked, does anyone say, I must come into being before or after some age? One is here and now. Statements like this, such as saying that you have to be of a certain age or a certain status or a certain place in your life, statements like this are misleading because people come to believe that they cannot realize the self in this incarnation and must needs take chances in another. It is all absurd. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And welcome to Satsang. So you are that which is aware, awake, here and now. What's your response? Are you like Mrs. Jennings? Do you have a mind like this? Some of you know this mind very well. This mind that keeps wanting a method and some sort of certainty and some end to your suffering. And this is natural for humans. What everyone wants is happiness. This is what's always being sought in life, no matter what we're doing. Whether the consequences lead to happiness or lead to suffering, the intention was always to find happiness. This has been our goal, always. But in the way of inquiry, the Maharshi keeps pointing out to all of us, not just to Mrs. Jennings, that in order to find this happiness, we have to look deeply into our own being. We have to come back to the source, the recognition, I am. This I am is a felt sense, isn't it? If I ask any one of you, do you know you are? Do you know that you are existing? You say, yes, of course. And you just dismiss it even. Yes, of course I know that. But I want to be enlightened. This is how this mind works. So when I say, then ask, who am I? Am I awake? Am I aware? Am I here now? I'm pointing you back to the source that the Maharshi is pointing Mrs. Jennings back to. This source can be found in all of the spiritual traditions, as the Maharshi points out. In the Christian tradition, the final recognition is I am that I am. This is also a pointing back toward the heart of being, back to the one thing that we know for sure, which is I exist. And the Maharshi encourages us to look back toward this I am, to this felt sensation. It's not a sensation like we have when we're experiencing pleasure or we're experiencing pain in the body. It's just that recognition that if we don't know anything else, the one thing we do know is I am here. We find ourselves here somehow. And so the traditions point us back to this recognition. I am here. Why? Because it is the foundation that everyone has. And this is why the Maharshi says that the inquiry is not meditation. And he points out that meditation requires a subject and an object. In other words, there has to be a me which is pursuing something, whether it's a visualization, a mantra, a state of mind, a state of calm being, or whatever. In order to meditate, there is this recognition that there is a me and there is an it, and I am pursuing it. Now these forms of meditation are fine. These are all preliminary forms, and they're useful for stilling the mind when the mind is really chaotic. Some of you know that I use this all the time with the mind. It's like an elephant wandering through, a mahout trying to take an elephant through the market in the morning when all the fruits and vegetables are out for everyone to purchase, and the mahout has to take the elephant through the market. He knows if he takes the elephant through the market that the elephant's trunk is going to go left and right, forward and back. It's going to try to grab all of the vegetables. It's going to smell things that are luscious to it, and it's going to attempt to grab something. So what he does, the mahout, is he takes a large piece of chain and he puts it in the elephant's trunk, and the elephant has to hold it, because this is what elephants naturally do. Anything that's in their trunk, they hold. The chain is heavy. Now the mahout can walk through the market with the elephant, and the elephant can glance around, can smell the smells and see the sights. But it has to walk ahead. Because it's trained, it cannot drop the chain. This is what we're doing with meditative techniques that involve centering prayer, following the breath, repeating a mantra, repeating the names of God, and so on. This is what we're doing for the mind. We're giving it an object, and we're asking it to stay there, and this stops it from wandering and grabbing at the thoughts that are going through the mind. This enables us to calm down, to slow down, to become more focused and more centered. But the interesting thing is that after many years of doing this, you come to realize that in order for you to recognize your own innate happiness in this moment, the emptiness of your own being, the lack of necessity for there to be a you in this experience of awakened mind, you have to drop all methods, all techniques, and you have to be willing to end your seeking. The reason is, what you're seeking is already here. And it is the mind, the emotions, the experience of past, present, and future, which prevents us from seeing clearly. I am that which is aware. Seeing clearly, I am that which is aware. Happiness is the natural state. Why is that? Because the reactivity, the questioning, the disturbance that happens in the mind through ordinary experience takes over, and it veils the natural, awake, aware presence, which is here now. And so the Maharshi makes clear that the difference between meditation and inquiry is that with inquiry, there is no object. There is only subject. This is why Nisargadatta Maharaj and the other sages have declared, and I am that, the foundation, the source of everything that is. It is because they have realized that everything that we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, think, or experience is only myself. This is not myself in the sense of personality. This is me, this is mine. This is myself in the sense of innate wakefulness, innate being, consciousness, and bliss. And you are that. And so when we come to satsang, we put everything else down. And we look only to this source, I am. And everything else is let go of. And by doing this, we gain some strength. Slowly for some of us, very slowly for others, but for some very quickly. I've already been getting reports back from some people that they are having glimpses of this innate nature as happiness, empty of the personality, of the meanness, of the clinging that comes from mind. And then that, in the days that follow, things tend to go topsy-turvy. Old habits come up, memories that they thought were long forgotten suddenly resurface, and there's a reaction that they haven't had for years. One person said to me a couple of weeks ago on the phone, with much joy in her voice, I can't believe what I've been searching for all these years. Now I see, and it's all so ordinary. And a statement like this, or a great deal of laughter, often peels off when one of you has this recognition of what it means to be here now as pristine awareness. There's this recognition that what you were looking for was here all along. But if you're having this experience of going in and out of awakened being, in other words, you're not firm in it yet, don't despair. Just recognize that everything but this awareness is coming and going. So if things rise for you, whether they're new or old, just let them go. Come back over and over to this recognition. I am that which is aware. One of the ways you can know that your sense of being, consciousness, your sense of being awareness itself, is becoming clearer, is that you begin to notice that your mind doesn't react quite so much as it used to. Whether it's something that comes as a memory, as some of you have expressed over the last couple of weeks, and it may be a strong memory, it may be an unpleasant memory, or whether it comes as a chainsaw outside the satsang hall. Just know that if your mind is reactive, there's more work to do. There is nothing wrong. You are not failing. But if you're able to be here, and just allow what is to be, now you are making progress. And it's the same with your mind. Some of you have a mind like a chainsaw. You cannot ignore it. Nonetheless, as you return over and over, and you persist in this recognition, I am that which is aware, and you rest as awareness itself, the sound of your own mind will quiet. And it will do so imperceptibly in the beginning. You will not even realize that it has gotten quieter. And you will think, oh, maybe I'm not doing something right. But then suddenly something will enter consciousness in a way that previously disturbed you. And this time you are less disturbed, and you know it. So this is the mark of success. One of the things that we have to do on this way of inquiry is we have to find ways to support ourselves in those small little incremental successes that come as the mind begins to quiet and our contemplation becomes deeper. So deep that it makes no difference what's going on in the outside environment. recognition I, or I am, is your chain. Are you able to hold to it while the chainsaw buzzes? You see, we're always given exactly what we need. In order, however, to accept what we're being given, we have to let go, don't we? We have to let go of what we're hearing. We have to let go of the disturbance in the mind. We have to let go of thinking. We have to let go of thinking that we are something other than happiness. We have to let go of the notion that there is anything which makes us unhappy. This is not a matter of positive thinking. This is a matter of no thinking. And this is the most terrifying thing for most of us. We've spent a lifetime trying to think our way out of it or into it. And no one has ever thought to tell us, just don't think and see what is here. What are you then? If you stop thinking, do you stop existing? When you stop thinking, the mind shrivels. When you become comfortable with no thinking, with no thought, the mind disappears. If you fix the attention on the thought I, on the recognition, the beingness, the I-ness of I am, the direct experience of I am, you find your nature as peace and happiness. And you find that it was already there, hidden behind your thoughts, hidden behind your clinging to past, hidden behind worry over the future. is your mind. So now use this opportunity to notice that it's not awareness which comes and goes. Sound comes and goes, rises and falls. Thinking comes and goes, rises and falls. But what is aware of the sound? What is aware of the thinking? What is even aware of the reactivity if it sounds unpleasant to you? What is aware of that? Our awareness of the sound and the sound itself the same thing? They appear continuous, right? There's no break between me and the sound. But even this recognition knows that there is something which is aware of the sound, of the me-ness, if there's an irritation about the sound, of the thinking, of the reactivity that can happen in the emotions. Something is aware of that. What is that? It's that awareness which you are, which isn't bound by the sound, or by the thinking, or by the emoting. That may be going on in you, but you aren't bound by it. So free yourself from it. You see, the belief that I am bound by something which is happening in body, mind, or world, this is what prevents us from seeing that I am happiness, bliss, consciousness. But if you ask this question, and what is aware of this, and you do nothing else, or the question, who am I, or am I aware? If you keep coming back to this question, and you do nothing else, what you begin to notice is that by doing nothing, the unpleasantness of the sound, the unpleasantness of the thoughts, the unpleasantness of the experiences, it leaves on its own. Now you've done nothing. There's been no effort. You have just remained firm in that which does not move, which does not rise and fall. You have just been aware. This is what the Maharishi calls keeping silent. Letting everything be as it is, and noticing that by doing nothing, everything comes to an end. And only awareness remains. And that which you are, that which is the source of your being, that which gives light and illumination to all of life, all worlds. You are that. Everything else is a dream. Cling to nothing which is in the dream world. Have things settled for you?
Now they have.
Now they have? Oh, very good. Yes, you see, this is why we keep coming back to satsang. It's because satsang is that place, that situation, that state, if you will, that reminds us that we're not what's going on in our mind. Sometimes when we have a recognition that we are that which is aware, or we have an experience of our own innate happiness. Some of our older material can surface and can do it fairly quickly. And this is the optimal time to come back to satsang, because you can stop looking at it, can stop struggling with it, as you may have been doing for days or weeks. You come to satsang and you just let it go. And with the support of the community, you're able to feel the strength of your own recognition that you are that which is aware, in the presence of others who are aware. And I understand, I can hear your mind saying, oh, but yeah, the others are aware, but I'm not. I don't get this yet, I don't understand it. But this is just your mind. Something keeps drawing you back here, over and over. And this something is what I'm pointing toward. This is not yours. This is being itself. So you just keep coming. And then one day I'll get a phone call from you saying, I can't believe I've been missing this all of this time. This is just so ordinary. I feel so ordinary. And I'm so happy. And this is where you land. Are you good?
So one thing, is it a trap, a mind trap, to think that one has conditioning that's going to come up from time to time to be cleared, and you have to go through it and deal with it?
Yes.
As long as you believe that, it's going to keep coming up.
Yes. Very good. One of the main functions of satsang and of inquiry is that we begin to look very precisely at the ways in which the mind retreats into me-ness, into my-ness, into personality. So, seeing that, you now can free yourself from that one particular way in which your conditioning pulls you out of happiness and puts you back in the mind. And this will come up over and over and over for many people, at a moment of recognition of who I am as consciousness, as awakening. This moment of recognition can come, and then the pathways for returning to personality and so on become glaringly obvious. Oh, if I keep thinking this way, I cannot experience my own happiness. So when you have this kind of recognition, I can say, yes, from this moment on, that way of thinking is a trap for you. For someone else, I might say, no, go a little further. Explore that a little bit more. Because it's only this recognition that the mind is the source of the trap that will finish that. Very good. You see, when I...
Just
Good.
Mine can't wrap itself around it.
Yeah. Yeah, but at least you're laughing.
Yeah, myself.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to be happy. You see, so much of what we do in our own minds comes out of the fear of happiness. Not the kind of happiness that's smiling all the time, just the kind of happiness which allows us to be present with what is, to be unafraid. And we may dance as a consequence, but we also may just be very quiet. So from time to time you can ask yourself, am I just afraid to be happy in this moment? Is this thought I'm having, this reaction I'm having, this emotion that I'm having, just my fear of being happy? The sages say, you are happiness. They don't say you will become happiness when you take care of all of your crap. They say, you are happiness.
Would you please go over what you said real, authentic happiness is? Would you say that again?
I don't remember what I said.
That's
I don't
okay.
listen. Does anyone remember what I said?
Yeah, but that is really, really priceless, you know. Because
good.
our mind has this idea of what happiness is, and you are speaking of happiness that's a different happiness.
You'll have to look at the video and
Yeah.
I just wanted to really lock it here.
Sorry, I don't lock things in.
What they say, anchor it, or whatever.
Who says that?
I don't know.
Yeah. See, this is what the mind says.
Yes.
You see, you heard what was said, and it went right into your heart, and then
And
your
I
mind
really
went,
know it.
and then your mind went, oh, I have to get that.
I just wanted you to repeat it.
Yeah. So it's on the video.
I know what you said. I just wanted to hear you say it again.
he doesn't do again.
I don't know, some people say all I ever do is again. But I always am saying the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did tell a story of the elephant 2 weeks ago, because
Yeah.
I was here.
Yeah, this is an important one now.
It's a great one, isn't it?
Yes, because we have to have an anchor for the mind. Yeah. So, yeah. At least in the beginning. We don't need one forever, because we don't care about the mind at a certain point. It just is lost. This is the mind that can go back and remember things. It doesn't care to remember things.
Well, I appreciated what you said about happiness.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Ask me anything, but don't ask me to remember what I said before.
I guess we learn as we go along, and we come time after time.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that as we come time after time, what we actually do is we unlearn as we go.
Well, we learned that you don't repeat things.
Fair enough.
We learn how to be with you.
Your retreat starts today? Very good. Very good. So there's a couple of people who are either going on retreat or just returning from retreat. So yeah, this is good. It's always helpful to take some time for ourselves just to be in nature and be quiet and step out of our lives, our day-to-day lives. What we're really stepping out of is our minds. Putting ourselves in an environment that's conducive to the mind dropping. closing mantra. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvavakamiva Bandinam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritava Swaha Bhuva Bhuv Om Sat Jung Hang Om. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaskar.